Hello and welcome to the Main Cave. Now in today's video I want to share with you a pair of Joy-Cons that I've been using over the past few weeks and show you that they are packing an extremely special feature. So it's these are the Wizard Joy-Cons from a company called NYXI, and they're compatible with the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch OLED and the Nintendo Switch Lite. Plus it also can connect to the PC. In this video I'm going to break down 5 things that make these Joy-Cons an essential purchase in 2023. The thumbsticks, specification, Switch and PC connections, features, and finally comfort and use. So let's get on with number 1, the most standout feature, the thumbsticks. The thumbsticks on the Wizard are not just any thumbsticks, these are Hall effect thumbsticks. If you don't know what Hall effect is, basically it's a clever system whereby there's no actual touching of materials, so no wearing down, therefore essentially stick drift is a thing of the past. This controller takes it up a level by allowing you to replace the thumbsticks and the thumbstick rings whenever you choose. And I'm pretty sure that with a bit of soldering you can change out the thumbsticks module too, but I wouldn't advise it. There's 2 octagonal and 2 circular rings that are supplied in the box, and they can be swapped whenever you like, but for me, I've always stuck with the circular the whole time using this. The Hall effect Joy-Cons are smooth, they're responsive, and upon testing I found no dead zones and drift is a thing of the past. These thumbsticks are an absolute joy to use. So what about the specification then? Well, this can be used as Joy-Cons or a controller using the supplied centerpiece. It has inbuilt batteries which will last you up to about 8 hours or so and charges within about 2 to 3 hours. Either Joy can be charged using a separate USB-C, of which the cable is included in the box, or they can be charged themselves by being attached to the Switch. Having the Nintendo Switch docked with the Joy-Cons overnight is the way that I normally charge it, and I haven't ever found myself without battery for either of them. With it wireless, it means that it can connect to the Switch, OLED and the Lite and the PC, which I will talk about later, and it has a wireless range of about 10 meters, and the construction is a nice ABS with a smooth feel throughout with no extra grip texture to speak of. Now onto the connections, and this controller can connect in various ways, wired on the Switch as Joy-Cons, wireless when using the Switch docked or when connecting to the Switch Lite, but it can also be used wirelessly on a PC as a Bluetooth controller. To connect the Wizards to the Switch, all you do is just place the Joy-Cons onto the Switch and it automatically recognises it and you're good to go. You can then be used wireless on that same Switch without any further intervention. As I mentioned, you can also use this on a PC. To set this up in your PC Bluetooth settings, search for a Bluetooth device and press and hold the Joy-Con sync button, which is between the SR and SL on the side of each Joy-Con. Then on your PC, it appears as it normally would as Joy-Con L and Joy-Con R. You will need to pair them separately. Once both paired, it's time to get them working in game, so you do need to check that if your game of choice supports Joy-Cons. Steam has added this compatibility within the settings, so go in there, add Joy-Cons as a controller, calibrate it if you want to, then exit and you'll find that it works perfectly. Next up is features, and this is where the list is quite extensive. There's a lot going on for this controller with only really one omission. The main one bonus for me is that it wakes up the Nintendo Switch, whether it's attached or wireless. Also on the rear there are 2 separate textured buttons which are fully mappable. Each Joy-Con has its own button and they need to be programmed separately, and they can be mapped to any face button or trigger and even have a record of macro up to 21 button presses, which includes the time interval of each press. Each Joy-Con has its own decent rumble mechanic. It's not HD rumble, but it's a solid copy with adjustability of 4 levels, so 0, 30%, 70% and 100%. The face buttons A, B, X and Y, they all light up with a nice white glow, and this can be turned on and off manually. There are also 2 types of turbo, manual and automatic, with adjustable levels of 5, 12 and 20 presses a second. Finally, this controller also supports gyro controls. What it can't do, as I said the omission earlier, is NFC, so there's no way that you'll be able to use your amiibos with this controller. So what about the buttons then? Well, there are a few on the face that aren't on regular controllers. Up the top near the screenshot and home are the profile buttons. These are used to program the back buttons which we talked about earlier. Then right at the bottom is the turbo button, used to set the turbo. Everything else you'd expect to find on any regular Nintendo controller or Joy-Con is present, albeit in a slightly different layout. The buttons on this controller, they are interesting. They highlight them on the box as having a short trigger distance, and this is certainly the case for the triggers and the D-pad. For the digital triggers, there is hardly any movement needed to press them. There is a satisfying click when pressed and they are a joy to use. The D-pad is similar, 4-way with a small click on each press with hardly any movement down to actuate that press. Throughout my testing of the triggers and the D-pad, I found that there was no lag in time between pressing, and having this replicated on the screen was almost instant, both as Joy-Cons and as a wireless controller. All face buttons act as you expect from any quality controller. There was little movement, and pressing gives good feedback on all but A, B, X and Y, which are regular control buttons with a low thud of a press. The only downside I can really see is for people considering this is the layout. As you can see, this replicates other styles of controller which may not be what you prefer, and it does take some time to getting used to after coming from regular Joy-Cons and controllers. So what is it like to use? Well, I'm pleased to say it's very, very comfy. This is a large pair of Joy-Cons. As a controller, it is a perfect size, almost matching the size of the official Pro controller, and as Joy-Cons, they are oversized but still very comfy. All buttons are in easy reach, the triggers are nicely sized, and the addition of extra buttons are accommodated perfectly to the aesthetics. The only thing I'd change would be the placement of the rear buttons. It's just a bit too close, and I feel as though I have to claw to press the tip of my finger, but a slight adjustment with my finger meant I could press it going forward. In the name of science, I've been using these Joy-Cons exclusively for gaming over the past few weeks, and I've never once got fatigued using them. I prefer using it as a controller when docked, as they are large and much more conducive to be a controller, but Joy-Cons was okay. It just takes some time getting used to the size and the layout. Overall, if you don't mind difference in face buttons layout, this is excellent. A very well stacked controller with plenty going for it. It has that retro look, it's well built, plenty of features, and above all else, finally we have Hall effect Joy-Cons to use. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you going to pick up one of these controllers? Please do let me know. Do look down the links below where you can buy this. Do like and subscribe. And until the next video, bye-bye.